Sorry, man. My bad.
Today we're here at the London Festival of Architecture and we are about to embark on an archi-crawl, which is essentially a walking tour, taking in places which have particular architectural interest and reflecting on the London Festival of Architecture theme, which is in common. So this tour has been organized by myself, Dominic Standel, and Hannah Cox, and we call ourselves the Comms Collective. Today we'll be joined by 5 special guests who we call our storytellers, and they are professionals from media, journalism, broadcasting, curation, academia, and architectural writing, and we're going to hear from them about what is so special about those places to them, and hopefully we'll learn more about what we have in common with each other and with these spaces.
Today we're at the Volta Data Centre in the centre of Clerkenwell on Great Sussex Street. So the building's interesting to me because it really kind of exemplifies our kind of non-caring about the aesthetics of the internet. Data centres are probably the most important building of the 21st century. No one really cares about them, especially architecturally, no one cares about them. So this is a really good example of a building that looks quite mundane from the outside. It's kind of like an office. It's a bit confusing, but if you look at work on a detail, you can tell it's not an office. It's a bit of an uncanny about it, and that's why it's interesting, is because it's confusing, but also massively important.
So I'm going to show you St John's Gate, and I chose that place mainly because it symbolises to me all the hidden little nooks of architecture that are hidden all through London. It tells a story. It's something that has been there for hundreds of years. What could be more representative of being in common than a door, from the Latin portal to actually transition from one place to another. We open our front doors to invite guests in. So for me, it was the perfect representation of us being in common and living together.
Well, I chose the Holy Tavern on Britain Street, which is one of my favourite pubs in Clerkenwell. It's a very special little pub. It's very small, it's very cosy. The signboard outside says Anno 1720, set up in 1720. I'd always assumed it has this incredibly long history, but its history, I just discovered, is really not what it seems. And this pub that I thought was set up in 1720 actually only dates to 1996, and it was set up as the Jerusalem Tavern by a guy called John Murphy, who was a sort of branding supremo. He ran the company Interbrand, which invented hobnobs and Prozac and all sorts of other things. So I thought this was a kind of great example of how appearances can be deceptive in the city.
I'm gonna do my little bit at the Marx Memorial Library, but actually the subject that I'm talking about is sort of politically related, and so that's why I chose this spot. I'm going to be talking today about Dadabhai Naoroji, who is a very famous, significant political figure in the history of Indian independence. But I discovered while researching for this talk that he was actually an MP for Finsbury Central, which is comprises Clerkenwell. Being from Calcutta, which is where I am from, and that was the seat of British Raj in India for such a long time, I'm interested in finding cross-currents between the two cultures and finding an Indian politician's legacy really embedded in the fabric of British liberal politics was really a thrill, so I'm honoured to bring that history to light today. It's really important to understand in emerging and ongoing discussions about decolonisation the sorts of ideas that we share around publics, around futures, and around, sharing cultural politics and building our communities together.
Today I will be showing you Leather Lane Market. It's special to me because being an architect, I deal with permanent, quite solid things in general. And I think it's special to me because it's a bit of an antithesis of that. It's, street markets in general are very impermanent. They're very nimble. They appear and they disappear. And I like that about it. I feel as though it's always a flux. It's always moving. It's always changing. What we do have in common, what you see when you see so many people gather here, is just sharing food and talking and just yeah, a love of cuisine